There are only three things that receive unconditional love: women, children, and pets. A man never receives the grand luxury of unconditional love. A man is valued solely for what he provides his family. But don't get confused. I do not state this fact to gain empathy. While a weak man might see this as a curse, us mighty men must see it as a blessing. My brother, think about it from this perspective. If a man was freely given love without any conditions, he would quickly take his role as father, husband, and businessman for granted, and soon he would become unmotivated and lose everything that mattered to him. In this light, the absence of unconditional love can be seen as a catalyst for a man's self-improvement, a driving force that keeps him striving to be the best version of himself. In today's video, I will be discussing 4 masculine mindsets that will maximize your manhood. Number 1. Prove yourself worthy. When I was a young man, I had become sickly arrogant. But once I had to leave my father and mother and make something of my life, I had a rude awakening. I thought the world would love and adore me. I thought they would welcome me with open arms, when in fact, they did the exact opposite. I quickly found out that life for a man is extremely hard, and if I were to ever make something of my life, that I would first have to prove myself worthy. So how did I prove myself worthy? Was it with fancy jewelry and cool clothes? No. Was it with chiseled abs and a strong jawline? Definitely not. Listen, a man proves himself worthy by only 3 things. Number 1, service. Number 2, selflessness. And number 3, sacrifice. The world will tell you to be a go-getter, but what I learned is that you have to be a go-giver. Listen, my brother, when a king acts like a king, it is not long before someone else is king. But when a king acts like a servant, a king he will always be. That is the key. A true king serves his people. When you make your entire life less about yourself, only then will it begin to finally maximize. Number 2, be high-spirited. The high-spirited man is a man of a different caliber. His mindset operates at a higher level. What does it mean to be high-spirited? It means doing everything with enthusiasm and an upbeat attitude, even in your hardest moments. The truth is, most men are living a hard life because their perspective is completely distorted. They want to be a king, but they act like sad slaves. Listen, my brother, if a man can learn to rejoice in his suffering, he can endure absolutely anything. Think about this. Many young men will complain when asked to take out the trash for their parents, while some young men wish they could have parents to take out the trash for. Many men will complain about their wife, while there's men who will spend the rest of their life in prison, never to touch, smell, or even see a woman again. Some men will complain that their job doesn't appreciate them, while other men would just appreciate to have a job. Remember, the quality of your life depends on the lens you look at it through. So all in all, if you want to be as unmanly as possible, complain more often. A great thing to do is be aware of the next time you complain, and the moment you do, quickly analyze what it is and make a decision to never do it again. Complaining is very feminine behavior. So the next time your girl asks you to help clean the house or your friend asks for a favor, instead of rolling your eyes or huffing and puffing, your response should be, "Of course, no problem." Or if you are busy, your reply could be, "I'd love to, but can you just give me 10 minutes to finish what I'm working on first?" Anything outside of this response is inexcusable behavior as a man. Number 3, be less impressed. We live in a world where we are constantly comparing ourselves to great men and successful influencers. We see these rich businessmen and we sit here thinking to ourselves, "I must be like him. I must achieve his success." But listen, my brother, don't allow these men to do that to you. I'm not saying they're bad men or that you can't draw some good advice or inspiration from them, but walk your own path. Matthew McConaughey once said, "Be less impressed and more involved." In other words, there's too many shiny objects that are getting us excited and that are distracting us. We get so mesmerized by these powerhouse influencers and celebrities, and we think the only way to be high value is to get on that level. Listen, it's okay to desire success, but don't allow that desire to undermine or discredit what you currently have in front of you. Understand this: the more impressed you are with other people, the more disconnected you become with yourself and your path. Remember, it's not always about being number one. It's about finishing what you started. Don't look at what everyone else is doing. Instead, finish the work in front of you and do it with spirit and enthusiasm. And finally, number 4, use what's in your hands. Let me tell you a quick story that will deeply inspire you. Around 3,000 years ago, there was a small army of 300 soldiers that was led by a man named Gideon. They were up against a massive army of 135,000 men, who were known as the Midianites. One night, God gave Gideon a dream along with an idea on how to defeat the Midianites. So around 2 o'clock in the morning, Gideon woke up his soldiers and gave each of them a trumpet and an empty jar, filled with a torch inside. He told them, "When I blow my trumpet, I want you to blow your trumpets and shout, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" So they went to the Midianites' campsite where they were all sleeping, and they blew their trumpets, smashed the jars, and grasped their torches. All of a sudden, the Midianites woke up terrified and confused, thinking a massive army was approaching them. And God caused the men in the camp to turn on each other with their swords, and then they fled the land. And that night, Gideon's army of 300 men defeated the 135,000 Midianites. Now let me ask you a question. Do you think it made sense to Gideon's soldiers to show up to the campsite with nothing but trumpets and empty jars? Of course not. How were 300 men going to conquer 135,000 Midianites without a single weapon? Something like this just doesn't make sense. However, not one of the soldiers ever questioned Gideon or God. Not even one backed out and went home. Instead, they all obeyed their orders and took action, even when it didn't make sense. So how does this resonate with us men? Just how it didn't make sense for Gideon's army to rise up and take action, it doesn't always need to make sense for you to take action. You just need to be completely submitted and surrendered to God's will. Remember, stop focusing on what you don't have and start focusing on what you do have. If you want to join the Brotherhood, please hit the subscribe button and notifications bell. Remember, brother, you were built to beast.